What is up, everybody? Welcome into the live show. I am sounding a little bit better. My voice is feeling a little bit better. So that means that this live chat is going to be better, right? That has to be the case. I think it's science is officially how that works out. Looking forward to this one today because we do have a lot to chew on. There is some new information out there about Big 12 expansion that has come out from Sikkim 365 that those guys, who I'm sure a lot of you watch on YouTube, covered today, but it's also an article format on their website, which there are a lot of things that are very, very interesting about that. I do want to start today predominantly with the college football playoff conversation because not as it pertains to this year in 2021, but we had a meeting that was supposed to happen today that had been scheduled for a long time that was going to be basically everybody meeting. The initial intention for it was for everybody to meet and rubber stamp a 12-team college football playoff, which for a while there seemed like it had pretty universal support. Obviously, if you are the Big 12, it makes a lot of sense. You would like a 12-team playoff where the six highest rated, highest ranked conference champions would get in. That is certainly something that you want, as opposed to at-large bids, because at-large bids are going to hurt when you are a conference that has the perception issues that the Big 12 does, right? But today, what happened is the College Football Playoff Board of Managers, that's comprised of 11 presidents and chancellors who have the authority to change the playoff. They decided not to vote next week on a proposed 12-team format. So I guess I said the vote was supposed to be today. The vote was supposed to be next week, but today we found out they are not going to vote on a proposed 12-team format, delaying any changes to the current 4-team field right now. I don't think this should be any kind of a surprise to anybody, but it is also something of note, especially because a part of this article that I want to focus on in particular as it relates to the Big 12 is Heather Dinich. I'm reading this from ESPN. Says sources with knowledge of the discussions have said there is some interest in an 8-team model, but there isn't unanimous support for it. And this is Jack Swarbrick, who's the AD at Notre Dame. He says the support for expansion is clear, which is great. I think the focus will be on the issues surrounding the 12-team model. I will admit I get a little bit leery when I start hearing about an 8-team playoff for the Big 12. So that is a part of what I want to discuss today. There's also the ESPN factor in all of this, what it means for ESPN. I think that is also something that's very, very interesting. So we'll dive into all that. That's a brief intro of what I want to hit. The Sikkim 365 details basically surround who the Big 12 may add. It continues to say that Boise and Memphis are in good position if the Big 12 decides to go that route. So if you're a Boise or a Memphis fan, that's certainly something you're going to want to pay attention to. And I'll give you a video with a more fulfilled breakdown on all of that. I think the most interesting stuff, not really, there's a lot of it that's pretty interesting, but there is a lot of talk also about the exit fees for Texas and Oklahoma and how all of that's going to be paid out. And it says that Oklahoma and Texas right now are wanting to do 2 payments. I know the Sikkim 365 guys were using the layaway analogy. Like you make one payment now, you pay $40 million now, you'd pay $40 million later. And that Bob Bowlesby supposedly is putting his foot down on that, which he should. He absolutely 100% should. Do not allow them to do that. Do not allow them to do that at all. And then a little piece about the Big 12 and the Pac-12, maybe trying to come to some sort of an agreement, like waving the white flag on rating each other. Which also is very, very interesting. And then look, like I feel like a lot of times in these, I know that expansion is fascinating, and I know that's why a lot of you are here, but I like talking football, man. I would love to talk about the games coming up this weekend. I think there are some fascinating games in the Big 12 this weekend, and we'll find out if a lot of teams are for real. That will be really interesting. So I'm going to start with this. In the chat, I see all of you guys. I'm going to try and give a shout out to everybody that said hi so far. It's great to see all of you guys. Thank you, guys and gals. But John, I see John in there. John Bishop Jr. John, I just found out that you used to be roommates with a guy named Matt. I know him here in Salina. Good guy. Shout out to my buddy Matt Denning. Yes, that is my guy. He actually texted me about that yesterday, and I just realized like things are so crazy in football season. I need to text him back. So John, if you run into Matt, you tell him I'm going to text him back. I've been bad about that, but that is my dude. So thank you for the shout out there. Let's see. Tyler's in here. What's up, Tyler? Charles, the Oklahoma fan, still in here. Rob, congrats on the 10K. Thank you. Thank you to all of you guys for helping build this channel. It is awesome to have surpassed 10K on Twitter and on YouTube. That certainly helps. I'm seeing YouTube TV account. Thank you for Sikkim365 and your show. Kudos and continue doing the very good work. Appreciate that. D5 Terps in here. Timothy Haynes in here. Alan McComas in here. Thank you, all of you guys who are here. If you do want to donate and make sure that your question or comment gets to the top of the chat, you just click the $ below the chat box there where it says say something. John, I will keep expansion content going. No doubt about that. I definitely will. I just also want to mix in football also. So that's I'm trying to find a mix. If you guys want a little state of the channel address here right now too, I've done a lot of thinking and taken some feedback from some folks this week on trying to figure out exactly how to appropriately parse out the content that's going to be the most interesting for all of you guys. I think obviously it's a wide enough net that not all of it is going to be something that like every single person will like, but I want the right mix. I want the correct mix of both football content and expansion content and whatever else it is that you guys are going to be interested in. But as expansion continues to, I don't think fade is really the right word because I don't think it's going anywhere, but not be quite as much at the forefront. You'll probably start seeing more and more of a mix of that content. And the other thing I've got to figure out is how to, I know I have a lot of K-State fans in here because obviously that's what I do for the day job is cover K-State. I want to find a way to get like some K-State specific. I may wind up just restarting a new channel and just going back to a K-State specific channel and having both of those here so that we can get like K-State questions and I can give you guys more K-State specific content that way. The problem for me in doing that, and not that you guys really care that much, is it would have to be non-monetized for a little while because I got to build back up to 1,000 followers and all of that, which is where, I was at like 1.5, I think, when this all blew up with realignment back when it started. So I would like to do that because I feel like that'll be an easier way to kind of satisfy that itch for everybody. It will keep this channel much more regionally Big 12 focused and allow me to still have that outlet for K-State. But I would also say, like, for all you guys that want K-State content, I do the daily radio show that's pretty much, that's about 75-80% K-State focused. And you can find the details in all the descriptions of my videos on YouTube if you want to find that. So that's kind of a state of the channel address. That's a layout of what I want to get into today. It'll be dictated by you guys too. I'm going to pay attention to the chat. And if you want to get your comment up to the top, you just click the donate button. It's the $ below the chat box. Okay. Man, I appreciate that. We love you, John. We want to hear you and all your product. Well, you are going to get plenty of it. I'm not going to stop churning out content. Yes, Rob, I do see that. I could do K-State specific content. I'm thinking about doing K-State specific chat on this channel, try it out, see how it works, and we can kind of go for there. I will make some picks, Alan. I will make some picks. Promise you I'll make some picks before the end of this chat. Hold me to that. If I get to the end and I haven't, hold me to that. So the college football playoff. The college football playoff is not going to expand to 12 as of right now. I started getting into some of the details of that story. The board was originally scheduled to meet with 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick on September 28th. So that was next week. And again, when that was scheduled, it was thought like, hey, we'll just stamp this seal of approval on a 12-team playoff and move on. Now we're starting to see some conversation about an 8-team playoff. And this would be the part of it. I'm going to start with the part of it that makes me a little leery from the Big 12 standpoint and then work backwards toward some of the ESPN stuff, which I laugh at ESPN today with how all of this is going. But it says, again, sources with knowledge of the discussion said there is some interest in an 8-team model, but there's not unanimous support for it. And Heather Dinich had a tweet that said that it was, as you would imagine, group of 5 teams are not going to sign on to an 8-team playoff that doesn't include auto bids, whereas Notre Dame and the SEC won't sign on to an 8-team playoff that does include auto bids. So there's a definite impasse there. And look, that's everybody looking out for their own self-interest. If you are the SEC, you control the perception of college football. Everybody thinks you're the best. Everybody thinks you have the widest array of great teams on a year-by-year basis. You don't want any auto bids that would take up space for any of your potential at-larges. The SEC could just run the at-large bids every single year. And we know how subjective this all is. I don't need to tell any of you guys in Big 12 country how all of this works. because we lived through what happened in 2015 when TCU was third. They blasted Iowa State on the last day of the regular season, and then they got bumped out, and we're on the outside looking in along with Baylor at 5 and 6, right? Get left out for Ohio State. I know Ohio State went on to win the championship. Ohio State was a deserving champion, certainly at the end of the day, but I would not tell you that that Baylor and TCU didn't get screwed, because they did. They each of those teams, I think, were more deserving of being in the playoff than Ohio State, no matter what happened in the end. So, like, that's the fear. That's the fear. Thank you for the donation, Joe. Gives me a nice sticker as well, dancing around. Thank you, Joe. So if that's why the SEC wants that to be there, right? They would get that bump. They would get that Ohio State bump as much as possible. And the group of 5 is looking at it like, dude, if you guys do an 18 playoff and there's no auto bid for anybody, like, we're never getting in this thing. You know, I mean, look at this year. Cincinnati is trying to fight and scrap for it right now. And God, I hope Cincinnati beats Notre Dame next week for so many reasons. But it would help out the conference perception a lot. And Cincinnati's having to fight that battle now. They had to fight that battle last year. Like, the group of 5 knows exactly where this is going if it's an 18 playoff with no auto bids. So, like, from that standpoint, the 12-team playoff makes a lot of sense for the Big 12. And that's why I am leery here as this moves. Like, it just leaves you a little bit uneasy, because it's like, all right, if this does wind up moving away from 12 was going to be something that made you feel good about the new league. And that's driven a lot of the conversation about Big 12 expansion and where things are at, right? Like, we don't necessarily need the Power 5, the Autonomous 5 designation anymore, because it's just going to be the 6 highest ranked conference champions. You've already kneecapped the AAC. The Mountain West is still a decent ways behind you. And even if they had a champion that somehow was above yours one year, you'd still be in line to get somebody actually into the playoff. So, like, it makes a significant difference. 12-team playoff is huge and would really help level the playing field, at least a playoff access for the Big 12. The problem is going to be, then can you win games once you get there, obviously. But at least in allowing you access to it and making everybody feel like you have a chance, 12-team playoff, sign me up. You know that the league champion is going to have a spot at that table every single year. So you definitely want that. You definitely want that if you're the Big 12. And I start seeing this row go down, 8 teams and no auto bids. The thing that makes me feel a little better, though, as I do talk it out, is that the whole reason basically that this is stalled is the alliance came together and all said, like, let's not let the SEC run this thing. Let's not have the SEC be in total, complete control of this. Because it was, if you remember, it was Bowlesby and Sankey that were really driving the committee that initially proposed the 12-team playoff and kind of got everybody on board. And that's why there's been this hesitation. Like, hey, we don't know about this. The ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 are like, we didn't actually have a seat at the table when that was going on. So is Sankey just engineering all of this for his own good? Because Bowlesby was there, but we know that Bowlesby got played once by Sankey with Texas and Oklahoma, and having no idea about that. Is he getting played again with the playoff expansion? So that is why you have the hesitation there. That's exactly it. Now, there is some talk, too, about player safety, and if you played a 17-game season potentially with a team, if they were to play in the first round of the playoff and go all the way, I understand that that's a concern, but I think we all understand, like, that's not going to stop this from happening. It's not going to stop this from happening because money talks, and there is going to be money to be made with expanding the playoff. So I don't fear that as a hang-up. The hang-up is the mistrust of the SEC and everybody realizing that they have time, one, because the current contract still goes through 2025. So they have time to suss this out and be more thorough and make sure that they feel good about what is actually happening here with the playoff and talk out all of these issues. The other factor is the TV part of it. And the TV part of it is the one part of this that I do enjoy, because it means that ESPN is taking it in the shorts for right now. ESPN, of course, has the rights currently, and if this were to have just gone to a 12-team playoff within the current contract, right, before 2025, obviously ESPN would be the beneficiary of that. They would get the extra revenue and everything that comes with having extra college football playoff games. And now everybody is saying, wait, we can make way more money by just putting this thing out to market and having multiple networks bid on it so that it would work like the Major League Baseball playoffs or the NFL playoffs, or you have Fox and CBS and multiple entities actually involved here. That is something that is of the utmost importance when it comes to this conversation. So, and that part I love, because it means ESPN basically that we're slowing down the monopoly that ESPN has on everything here. It is, I think that's a big part of it, is not just making more money, but also being like, look, the SEC and ESPN are in bed together. The ACC is also very much in bed with ESPN, but the ACC is not thrilled with that because they got screwed on their TV contract that's through 2036, where their payout right now is like right around $30 million. So this is, I see John in the chat hopping in there, and Alan and David, I see your comments too. I'm going to get to them. But I just see anything that screws over ESPN, I'm on board. That's really where I'm at. Like, I enjoy that part of it, that ESPN now has to squirm and compete with other entities. That's the whole problem with college football right now, is there's just not enough competition for ESPN. So whatever can bring more competition to the game, and maybe bringing some other TV networks into the game, dipping their toe in the water with the playoff, will make them want to get more involved with some of these other TV deals, namely like the Big 12 eventually coming up. So I think that all can be beneficial. I don't think that's a certainty by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that's a possibility, and something that could really help out. So, like, I'm here for that. Whatever you can do to fire back at ESPN after we saw their plot to try and take down the Big 12, after we've seen their dealings with the SEC, how they have absolutely propped up the SEC for a decade plus at this point. And I cannot listen to the argument of anybody that would suggest that has not helped. I'm not saying that that's the only reason that the SEC is where it's at today, but it has 100% been a factor and helped boost them along the way. So anything to disrupt that marriage. And I think that's really where everybody else is at too. I mean, look, the Big Ten's okay financially, but they know perception-wise they're still behind the SEC. They don't want that to happen. The Pac-12 and the ACC have major problems financially, and they know perception-wise they're still very far behind the SEC. So everybody wants to come in and stop that and halt it just for a second. Now, another thing that I would say is that if this is going to delay a playoff expansion past 2025, there is going to be a scenario there for a while where the Big 12 is going to have to sit and basically, I would think, be left out of the playoff for a couple of years if the timeline all goes according to what I think is the most likely. What I think is the most likely is that 2023, Texas and Oklahoma will find a way out. Everybody else, the AAC teams, BYU, will find a way in, and you'll have the new conference then. But if you don't have an expanded playoff and it's still a 4-team playoff, at that point, we know, I mean, the Big 12, think about that, the new look Big 12 and the perception issues that they have. Like, how are you going to get anybody in the playoff? I think you'll basically be taking a couple of years there working with the idea that you don't have much of a shot at the playoff. But in the end, long term, if it means we get a 12-team playoff and more money and different networks and it's not monopolized by ESPN, all of that will be good for the league in the long term. So that could be a situation of some short-term sacrifice for some long-term gain and benefit for the conference. So that's really where I stand on all of that. I know there's a lot of angles to take on this playoff expansion. And in general, like, as a fan, there is a part of this that is definitely a bummer. I mean, just for wanting high-quality college football games, I would love for there to be a 12-team playoff tomorrow. I would love to watch those games. I would love to watch, or, you know, I've seen some people in the chat disputing the validity of a 12-team, and they'd rather 8 or 16, whatever it is, just an expanded playoff. An expanded playoff would be great. That would be great for the entertainment value of the sport. There's no doubt about that. And so I'm on board with that, and it's a bummer that is getting delayed. But I think clearly there are some things that need to be vetted here. That's probably the word. Like, everybody just wants to make sure this thing is properly vetted. So let's make sure that on the SEC and ESPN end, this thing is properly vetted, and it's not Sankey pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and just getting over like that. Okay, couple of comments here that I saw. Alan, appreciate the donation as always, my friend. I know you're always in here, very active and donating. That is awesome. Thank you very much. Alan asked if I'll be in Stillwater this weekend and will we get a guest appearance at Eskimo Joe's. I will be in Stillwater this weekend. I am only driving down for the day on Saturday, and then I have a hotel in like Perry, Oklahoma, somewhere like 20 minutes outside of Stillwater. So I'll be there. Might make a stop at Eskimo Joe's. I do like Eskimo Joe's. In fact, I still have some Eskimo Joe's cups that I used from the last time that we were there in 2019. So yeah, I'll be hanging out. I'll have some fun. I am doing. I'm going to be with Greg Swaim on his radio show at Pickleman's at like 4:00 before the game, which kicks at 6. So I'm looking forward to that and the Big 12 football weekend. David says, I've appreciated the conference realignment coverage. I've been locked into your daily coverage of Worried Cyclone. Thank you, David. Man, appreciate that a ton. Iowa State fans, brothers in arms right now. I joke about the Farmageddon freeze being on. There is that friendly rivalry. Well, maybe not so friendly sometimes between K-State and Iowa State. Right now, I'm kind of cooling on that, man, because I feel like we're definitely in the same kind of boat here. Really appreciate the donation. Really appreciate you following along with the channel. Thanks a bunch. Steven pops in with a question here. Do you think that the Big 12 will expand after the 2021 football season if Texas and Oklahoma leave at the start of the 2022 season? Well, I don't know that there's a way that you could I'm guessing the idea that you're getting at there is like, could you then say, well, we're not getting the AAC teams yet, so let's go find, I guess you'd probably be having to go to the Mountain West at that point, or maybe you say BYU, if you guys can come in early and we'll go take Boise State and then get out of the Mountain West early. I think all that's pretty unlikely. That seems like too quick of a timeline really to move. So I don't think that would happen. I also don't think that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be able to get out that soon. I just don't. I think that's too fast. Unless they're ready to write a fully vested check. None of this, we'll make one payment now and a second payment later and do 40 now and 40 later. None of that. If you guys are trying to get out by 2022, what's the tax on that, right? Like 80 mil is what's already there, no matter when they leave. Even if it's at the end of 2025, the grant of rights would be up, but they'd still owe the $80 million exit fee. All right, we're talking about the AAC teams owing 10 mil, but trying to get out early, and everybody points to UConn that paid $7 extra million to get out like a year early. Well, that's a 70% tax on that money. So, like, if Oklahoma and Texas, if they're looking at trying to leave by 2022, I mean, is that really what you're going to do? You're going to pay a 70% tax or whatever the Big 12 would put on that, and you're just going to write that check for I don't know, what's that, like an extra $50 million, like $130 million a piece. I don't see that happening unless there's some crazy legal snafu where Texas and Oklahoma hold the Big 12's feet over the fire somehow, which again, I don't see happening. I doubt that you're going to get to that point. To me, it continues to lead towards 2023. And I said that in the video that posted, that was today, right? The Texas and Oklahoma thing. Don't think it's a certain 100% certainty that they won't be there for 2022. But look, the SEC has already put out a 2022 schedule. I know that's not finalized or like in stone, but that's another step toward everybody moving to a 2022 season without them. 2023, yes, nighttime, I agree. 2023 makes the most sense for everybody involved, all parties involved. I think at that point, the Big 12 would be much more motivated also to cut a check, cut a deal with Oklahoma and Texas, because everyone's going to want to start and move on with the new Big 12 league, right? Like, you'll have your teams coming in. 2022 is like, that would just be the ultimate, like, just financial, whatever you can do financially to get out of Texas and Oklahoma, you would do at that point, because you cannot have a league next year with only 8 teams. I mean, think about all the jokes that get made about the Big 12 now. If you were to somehow let Texas and Oklahoma go and you had to do a year with just eight teams next year, like, nah, come on, man. That'd be terrible. And I would imagine the Big 12 would use every bullet in the chamber at that point to extract all the money that they possibly can out of Texas and Oklahoma at that point. But it's a good question, Stephen, and I appreciate the support and the donation. Again, if you want to get your question or comment up to the top, make sure that I do read it, separate it from everything else in the chat. You can click the donate button. Below the chat box is just a $sign below the say something that you see right there. So, yeah. Now, let's get to some of these details. I'm going to do a full-fledged video on this for you guys later this week. The details that have come out now from Sikkim 365. but I did want to mention them briefly here. I literally was just reading it before I came on with you guys. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. Like I know that in some ways, I guess we are competing for eyeballs and audience here on YouTube, but like I don't really view it like that. I love those guys are great. David Smoke has been awesome to me throughout this whole process, and I appreciate what they've done in fighting for the league and the details that they get and the reporting that they do. So I was on YouTube and I was literally getting ready to like go live, and I saw it pop up that it said like, "Hey, new Big 12 detail." So I actually watched their video, and then I went on the Sikkim 365 website and checked out the story. So to give you some cliff notes here, they're talking about a Chapter 2 of expansion. It says Memphis was passed over as David Rudd, the university's outgoing president, didn't want to tie the hands of the incoming president with the demands on a new stadium. The university appears to want the new stadium built on campus, but there are politics involved, so stay tuned. That would be a tough pill. Man, if I'm a Memphis fan reading that, that's a tough pill to swallow. It says, as the Big 12 is eyeing Memphis, the league hoped they would say they were all in on building a new stadium, but ultimately they would have to make that commitment with changes at the top. Whew. That would be, man, if I'm left on the outside looking in, if I'm Memphis and it's all about a stadium, that's not good. I would be infuriated if I were a Memphis fan on that standpoint. They do need a new stadium. That is the one thing. I've told you guys this from day one. The Liberty Bowl is just, I'm sorry, it is not a good stadium. It is not a good stadium. Memphis, I love you. Sweet win over Mississippi State. I love the pregame speech that I saw from your captain out there. Like a lot of things about Memphis, no problem with the city. You know, the Giant Bass Pro Shop, I've been in it, all of that. The Liberty Bowl is not a good stadium. I've been there twice. Whew, it's rough, okay? They need a new stadium. Shout out to Nighttime. Just wanted to contribute. Appreciate the content, Kurtz. You're the best, Nighttime. Excited for UCF to come into the league. But I digress. Memphis, that is why they were not added. It says, additionally, traditional Group of 5 power Boise State still remains very much on the radar. University President Marlene Tromp has Pac-12 ties, and Athletic Director Jeremiah Dickey has ties to the Big 12 after his time at Baylor. Tromp isn't expecting a Pac-12 offer, but the situation needs a little marinating. The Big 12 has made it clear that when it's ready to launch another round of expansion, Boise can't have delays in responding. So that's the Big 12 kind of making a power play there at Boise, being like, look, man, if we're going to come after you, you guys better be ready to go. Like there needs to be no hesitating here, which I like. Right now, the Big 12 can operate more from a position of power than they could have last time around. Last time around, it was like you needed the 4 teams. You needed to get something going. You needed some momentum. They've got that now, so I don't think you have to be too overly desperate right now, right? The Big 12 maintains some leverage, at least as it relates to Boise and Memphis in that situation. So on Texas and Oklahoma, it says Texas and Oklahoma are the 2 universities that continue to say all the right things about leaving, but everyone knows it's legal maneuvering and smart to say that for now. As for the payment owed to the league, this is the key here. As for the payment owed to the league, the 2 programs have told the Big 12 that the plan is to pay exit fees over 2 large lump sums. Texas and Oklahoma. The concern from the Big 12 perspective is once the first deposit is made from exit fees and Texas and OU are released to join the SEC early, the second deposit will get tied up in court and the future of the second payment will all be up in the air. Yeah, like, of course, you can't trust them. You can't trust them with that at all. For a second, you can't trust Texas and Oklahoma to actually pay that thing if they're only giving you half, man. No way. Especially when you sit there and we know how much money Texas has. They've got the boosters. They've got the people. If they wanted to cut the check and just make it happen tomorrow, they could. They could cut that check. So do not allow them to do that. No half-you-know-whating this whole thing. And the good news is the story does say Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby will not allow a first payment and being told that the second check is in the mail, according to sources close to the situation. That is good. That better not happen. That would infuriate me to infinity if that were to actually take place. It says the Big 12 will remain patient, and if it does not receive the full exit fees based on departure time, it will not give in to the total amount owed. Good. For now, if the full amount for 2 or 3 years isn't paid up front, sources say the Big 12 won't budge, and Texas and Oklahoma will remain until the grant of rights expires. Good. Make them go through as much awkward bleep as possible. If they're not going to pay up and not pay everything, you're going to deal with it and deal with all the awkwardness that comes along with having to go make road trips to Cincinnati and Houston. We know Texas doesn't want to go to Houston. Have fun with it. Go to Houston. Go get beat probably by Houston, especially if they change head coaches, and have fun with that. There is a little blurb in here which I find very interesting about SMU. Apparently, it has some value to ESPN. ESPN feels like SMU does bring some value to the conference. I can't figure that one out. Smaller enrollment, right? You're not. Are you getting the Dallas market with SMU? No, I don't think you're getting. Don't think you're getting DFW with SMU. I mean, it's the same thing as, like, no offense to TCU, but it felt the same way with TCU and the Pac-12, right? That report about the Pac-12 where it was like they want the DFW market by getting TCU. You're not getting TCU. I'm with you, Carr. I see that SMU brings nothing but too many Texas schools. I don't understand what the value would be there, but that is something that's at least being mentioned. And the Sikkim guys made a great point about, if ESPN is saying that, do they always have the best judgment? I mean, they did greenlight the Longhorn Network, which has now become kind of an albatross, and they desperately want out of it. Yeah, I would be a little bit leery about some of that, and I would not just add SMU purely to, I don't know. I would love to see what the numbers are on that. Like, how much is that substantially adding per school on your TV deal? It better be pretty damn significant if I'm going to add SMU just for the sake of adding SMU. And I don't mean that to come off like pompous toward SMU, which, I mean, shoot, that's like the hoity-toity rich school anyway, right? But it's more just like I don't want to add just to add. Like, you need to make a case. Now that there's 12 teams, you don't need to add just to add. These things need to add legitimate value and be well thought out. So I don't know. I didn't love that. Troy, shout out to my man Troy. Troy Hester just gave a very kind donation. You're the man, Troy. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. Thank you for donating. You are the best. Oh, Brian coming in here as well. Brian and Troy, my dudes. Brian and Troy stepping up with the donations. You guys are great. Brian just says, love the show. Wreck 'em. Thank you. You know, for that, I'm going to give you a guns up and a wreck 'em for this weekend, because I cannot possibly be pulling harder for Texas Tech this weekend than I will be. So go get them, man. Guns up. Channel your inner Patrick Mahomes and do whatever it is that you can to go knock off the Texas Longhorns. So John brings up something else that is of note to talk about here. And this is a great transition, John. So thank you for your comment there. He says, is ESPN, whatting on our party with all the ESPN Plus games at an 11 a.m. Championship game? We did see that today. The Big 12 announced that the Big 12 championship game will kick off at 11 a.m. on December 4th and be televised on ABC. That should surprise no one. And I realized today I missed a golden opportunity. If I miss a golden opportunity for a good tweet, man, I get very upset about that. And I missed a golden opportunity to take that information and say, hey, the Big 12 announced today that K-State and Baylor on December 4th will kick off at 11 a.m. at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Just let that one sink in for everybody a little bit there. You know, just a couple 3-0 bros, K-State and Baylor. But yeah, man, I mean, of course it was going to be at 11 a.m. Like that. That's just, even with Texas and Oklahoma, that's what we've seen lately out of the league in the league title game. I just didn't really see that changing or going much of anywhere. That's frankly, that's how the rest of the country sees it and cares. And just the perception problems of the league precede it as far as that is concerned. So it sucks, but at least it's not on ESPN Plus. I will admit, somebody played a great joke on me today. My buddy in the group chat that I have going, a bunch of us media guys, media jabronis, and sent the link to the story and said, wow, ESPN Plus for the Big 12 championship game. And I bought it. That's where we're at with this ESPN relationship, right? Is that I actually took the bait on my friends sending, hey, the Big 12 championship game is going to be televised on ESPN Plus. I was with it. I was like, oh no, really? And I clicked it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well played. That was very good. Very good stuff there. Can you imagine like what will the reaction be if it's like 11 a.m. kickoff and it is K-State at Iowa State, or say it is K-State and West Virginia, something like that. I would not project that. I'm certainly not. But the jokes, the TV numbers, like the Athletic would probably have 7 stories about the TV numbers of that championship game that would air at 11 o'clock and feature K-State and West Virginia in the Big 12 title game. Like, can you imagine how much run that would get without like how poorly it rates on TV? Boy. Okay. 005 Prime. I'm going to say 005. I don't know if it's supposed to be 005 Prime, but I'm going to say 005 because I think it sounds really cool. 005 Prime. Love what you're doing, John. Thank you, man. And I love the Cats profile picture there, the old school K-State logo. Love that. Dig it. Thank you for the donation. If you guys want to do so as well, you click the $sign below the say something box, the chat box. Brad, I see you say 24/7 Sports put out a report on the non-con records of the Power 5. I'll have to check that out. I know that the Pac-12 is 16-16, and the Big 12 has the best win percentage of any conference. It's like an 85% winning percentage. I want to say it's like 26-5. That's on Twitter. You can definitely find that. Scott. So, Scott, I want to address this because he says, hey, John, Texas Tech has a defense and a run game. Texas won't win an SEC championship. Well, I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And Texas Tech deserves a shout out. And Joe piggybacks on that too with a donation. Joe, thank you for the donation. Extremely, extremely kind of you. You guys are the best, man. You're killing it today in this chat. You guys, this is a fun chat today. Very fun chat. So Joe had a message there about like Wreckham Tech, another Tech fan, and Joe, I'm here for it. Guns up, go get them. But Texas Tech deserves some love. I had a Texas Tech fan on Twitter who I know follows the channel and stuff and said like, hey man, are you going to give Tech some love finally? I don't mean to have like abstained from talking Tech here. To be honest, I think what really happened is like week 1, I definitely talked Tech because I watched almost that entire game live as it happened with Houston at Texas Live after K-State got done pummeling Stanford. And I was really impressed. I mean, that second half was incredible. I was very impressed. And then week 2, I just knew it was Stephen F. Austin. Again, it was an ESPN Plus game, so I did not watch very much of it. I saw the highlights after, but that was it. Just a little 3-minute highlight cut up that the Big 12 puts on YouTube. So I didn't know a ton about it. I just knew it was a close game. K-State went through the same thing with Southern Illinois. So I really wasn't talking much, at least like on this channel and from a regional conference perspective about either team. And then I know Tech was pretty impressive against Florida International last week, and there are some good things happening. And look, just a 3-0 start for Tech to get that momentum is huge. That's huge. A part of it, too, is like with Tech fans, I can never tell. It seems like a lot of you guys and I understand, there's a lot of consternation, like frustration with Matt Wells right now. So I just never got a total vibe on like, are you guys all in on this? Are you buying this? Do you believe that this start is going to stick? I don't know. So that was a part of like why it didn't get brought up as much. But it's all about like, I hate to say it, but this is kind of, I feel like I am the national media and how I treat how they get treated by the Big 12 with all of this. Because I was about to say like it's about if you have a game that will get my attention. That's not Stephen F. Austin and Florida International, then that's going to get me talking about them. Well, this is the week. This is the week. You've got Texas. You've got this opportunity. I know they dominated Rice last week, whatever. They're vulnerable. They are vulnerable. Okay? So go get them. Go get them. I promise you, if Tech beats Texas this weekend, I'll take up what? What do you want? Like, oh, sorry. Is my mic cracking? It's probably because I'm too loud. Let me turn that down a little bit. I'm getting too animated here. If Tech beats Texas, I will spend at least 5 to 7 minutes talking about Texas Tech in the next live chat that I do. Promise. You guys beat Texas, I will talk plenty about the Red Raiders. And it's nothing. It is no personal vendetta against Tech at all. Look, I have no issues with Tech. I love Ryan Hyatt is one of my good friends I would consider in the league, one of my favorite people to talk to in the league, who does radio down there. Like all in. Patrick Mahomes, that connection. I'm a diehard Chiefs fan. Like, love it all. Okay, a couple other questions to get to here. So we got Jerry going to jot these down. Jerry, CBS, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime. Could that net up to 40 mil? Team. And then I saw a question from Daniel. Thank you for the donation as well, Daniel. KSU, OSU thoughts. I'm going to save Daniel. Daniel, shout out to you. I'm going to get. You guys are still saying the mic's cracking. I'm going to get you the like my prediction for the weekend, a little breakdown of each game here before I depart on the chat. So I will get you K-State, Oklahoma State thoughts in that, if that's cool. Definitely understand, why you want those thoughts, and I hope you'll stick around for them. But just for the sake of everybody here, I'm going to run through the games really quick, and I hope that's all right. But I appreciate the donation for sure. Man, you guys, is it really that bad? Is the mic that bad? This is not good. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on. It did seem like I was having some problems with it trying to record earlier today. I went back and checked some of the audio, so I don't know. Boy, okay. Let me unplug it and plug it back in. Let's see what's going on here.